All right. Well, sorry everyone for any delays that were had. I had a haircut appointment, and it ran a little bit long. I got a lot of hair, and he had to cut off quite a bit. But how's everyone else doing this weekend?
Good.
All right. Well, sorry everyone
I think
for
we are.
any
Yes.
delays that were had. I had a
Oh, I didn't
haircut
know we were going
appointment,
live.
and
thought we were
it
going
ran a little bit long.
on
I
the
got a lot
change
of
of the
hair,
stream.
and
Okay.
he had to
Hey, how's it going?
cut off quite a bit.
I'm doing well.
But
I'm just
how's
really
everyone
tired, that's
else
all.
doing this?
I like the shades.
Can you not
man.
hear me?
I like
No.
the shades.
We can hear you. He said you were a little bit tired, and I don't. Did you hear him, Keith?
I heard him fine. Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, how's Keith doing this weekend?
Keith is very busy this weekend, traveling around the better parts of New England, between helping out my family, and then I'm going to the conference tomorrow up in New Hampshire. So travel. That's my weekend. But I'm excited to be here today.
Sorry, I had a little bit of a moment. I had the stream playing, and then I just heard 6 voices going all at once, and yeah.
That happened in the background to me too. I had it going over my because apparently my headset will work, but for everything else, not with this. I don't know, because it was going through my headset, and I'm like, why do I hear myself talking?
I don't know, but you are really loud to me. Like your microphone is like
Is that better?
type.
How
Yes.
about now? There we go.
Yes, that's better. All right, so you want to run the show?
Most definitely. Well, I did want to start it off a little more lighthearted. I had a little game type thing to play to round it on, to get it kicked off. Something a little more fun and lighthearted before we dive into some heat, because everyone's here to see some healthcare talk. So I got a few quotes that are either a politician said it or a comedian said it. And you got to guess which one said it. So, yeah, a little lighthearted. So let's dive on into that and see what you're thinking on all of these, because I got more than a few. A few of them could definitely be something a politician said, or maybe something a comedian said. So let's get on into that first one. America has the best healthcare system in the world. You just have to survive long enough to afford it.
I've actually heard that one before, so I'm trying to remember who said it.
Well, I mean, it sounds like something a comedian would say, but I'll go with comedian. What the hell? We'll start out there.
I'll go comedian.
You would both be wrong. That was Ronald Reagan.
Okay.
Yeah,
0 for 1.
Yep. Well, I've got another one to get into. Our healthcare system is the only place where you can die waiting for treatment and still get a bill for it.
Again, that sounds like something a comedian would say, but that's probably a politician, Lord knows.
That feels like a politician.
Well, you're both wrong on that one. No, it was a comedian.
Again.
0 for 2. I mean, it's kind of hard to decipher because a lot of these things that politicians say could definitely be
Yeah.
something a comedian said. And a lot of these comedians say stuff that a politician probably should say.
Oh boy, we're comic relief. You don't need comedians. We're comic relief right here. Oh boy.
All right. Well, I got a few other ones that I thought were a little funny. Of all the forms of inequality, injustice in healthcare is the most shocking and inhumane.
I'm going politician.
Going comedian.
That one was Martin Luther King, actually. So,
Oh,
more
listen,
more
that
pop.
doesn't fall into either category.
Yeah,
Oh
what?
my God. Jeez.
I'm gonna lean it on the side of the politician. He definitely didn't get to that state, but he definitely had a lot of political impact. But that one wasn't so much funny, but definitely was more on the side of the truth. Uh, let's see, where was another one? Oh, here we go. You shouldn't have to go broke just because you're sick. That one was said more recently.
That's a politician.
That's Jimmy Kimmel.
Oh.
He totally could have said it, but no, that was Joe Biden. And I do have to agree with that sentiment. You know, no one should go broke because they got sick.
Hey, Noodle Brain's got something right. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not what this is, right? I'm sorry.
Hey, you know, every once in a while, a politician does say something that's a little bit true. I did, I did have one other one that I kind of wanted to throw out there, and it was I asked my doctor how much a procedure would cost, and he said, "How sick are you, emotionally or financially?"
It made me laugh. I'm going to go with comedian.
I'm gonna go politician just because that's the way this thing is.
You're right.
Well, that one was definitely a comedian.
Oh.
I just got all of them wrong, I guess. Yeah.
Hey, you got one of them right. You got the one right. Oh, actually, you didn't. You said that one was Jimmy Kimmel. So, it's okay. You do better next time.
Man.
I came for a policy discussion, not a game show.
Well, I wanted to start it out a little bit lighthearted, you know, before we delve into some meat and potatoes of a topic. Because, you know, started off a little bit right, where you can have a few laughs, and then we can dive into it and, you know, go into it with the laughs that we had at the beginning. Because some of it will get a little bit serious, but it kind of we all got the laughs together, so we can kind of keep that same energy going into the discussion.
Sounds good.
Love it.
I have a few questions that I had pulled on up. I shared both of those with you at the beginning before we started the whole show. Hopefully you had a little bit of time to prepare for some of that. But you know, that big question, which is also the title of the show, healthcare in America. Is it a right or is it a privilege? And if it is a right, to what extent should we guarantee that? I know you probably have differing opinions on it, but we'll let you guys go first, and then I will come in with mine. So, David, what were you thinking about that one?
It's kind of a. I honestly, I don't think anybody should like die because they are hurt or something. Like they should get care and like in a sense of like an emergency. I mean, we have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Right to life is the very first thing mentioned in that phrase. But do you have the right to health care? I'd say maybe. I'd say you have a right to access healthcare. As far as should the government provide that, I mean, that's what we're here to talk about. So I'd say I'd probably lean more towards like a hybrid type deal on that question. It's just kind of, yeah, for the most part, it's, I think once we get to the meat and potatoes, I'll be able to say a little bit more. But for now, I'm just going to leave it at that.
Well, that is a very good point there, especially since it is a nuanced discussion, saying everyone should have access is definitely something I agree with. Let's hear what CCM or Keith, how you would frame if healthcare is a right, and if it is a right, to what extent do we guarantee that as a right?
Well, much like he just said, I really do believe that the right is you have the right to access good health care. Now, to the extent of the government, I'm very much a light touch government influence kind of guy. So I do believe there should be guidelines to the healthcare system, but government involved in giving you healthcare, no, absolutely not. That's I think I covered all the nuance there. Yes, no, maybe, or
Yeah,
at least
for
get us started.
for the first question, definitely. And I'd have to say I kind of agree that you have the right to life. I wouldn't say that you have the right to force someone else to give you care. I would just say that you have the right to not be restricted from that care when you need it. So, quite similar to what the rest of you are saying on this. I know I was hoping for a little bit of a spicier take. I've heard that healthcare
Not
should be
yet.
a right, and we should have universal healthcare here in America. And there's some validity to that point when you bring up how much everything costs, and we'll get a little
I do
bit
have
into what was that?
I do have a disagreement with something you just said, but we can get into that.
You
I don't
can
think
go ahead
anybody's
right now.
forcing anybody to give anybody health care. I don't think that's I don't think that's a question. I don't think that's ever part of the discussion. That's like the Ben Shapiro take, like, oh, you're gonna make my wife give you health care. Huh? It's like, no, that's not how that works. It's something completely entirely different, but we'll get into it a little bit more.
I was just taking the more like I know it would be more of an extreme kind of viewpoint on that. I was more so just meaning that if you're going to say that healthcare is a right, then that would mean that you're not allowed to refuse. You're not allowed to like say, oh well, this person has been unruly. They haven't been a very good consumer of the good that I'm providing, but you would still be forced to provide that right because healthcare would be a right. That's why I say the non-restriction of access, meaning that you could go absolutely anywhere to receive healthcare. And if it's a life saving, there's no option because you have to treat this person because of the severity and you're saving a life.
Well, but wouldn't that be considered part of the Hippocratic oath? I mean, let's be honest. I mean, you go to a doctor, you expect that they're going to do their best to provide you superior or at least I do, I don't know, provide you superior service and yeah, keep you alive as long as possible and treat whatever ails you, as they say. To me, I would like to believe that that's not something the government has to mandate, but yet
Yeah.
something that doctors, hospital, healthcare providers would be, I don't know. I don't know the right word. I'm at a loss for the right word, but that they would just do that because that's the right thing to do. Am I way off base?
So saying that there should be some semblance of morality within
that's it. There you go. Thank you.
I mean, that's a very valid point where if you don't have some sort of morality, then yes, that's where you're going to have to see a little bit like I would say local legislation stepping on in, where if say we take it back to the 60s and you can't receive some health care based on the color of your skin, yeah, that would be a problem. But I would say that is not a federal government problem. It'd be more of a state problem. where your state now has to come in there and fix the problem.
See, I don't see that. I don't see that. And I'll tell you why. That's why there's courts. Sue the shit out the doctor that refused for that reason. And guess what? What happens, happens. Because they don't belong in business if that's the way they're going to be treating their patients or someone who's in need of emergency care. And quite frankly, they get sued out of business. Good for them. Or good for the person that sued them. Because you want to know what? Do you really want that person treating you if that's their moral compass? Just saying.
What is that at a state level or a federal level? Where if we have the government saying you have the right to receive access to healthcare, but it is up to the states to decide how that access is provided. That's where I would like to see a little separation in that. Instead of, oh, well, you have to receive this. Well, now you have places where it's like, well, I'm required to give this care, but they're not paying. So federal government, come in here and pay a little portion of this bill of someone that just isn't able to afford it, or things like that, because there are these mechanisms that are now been forced upon by the federal government. You have to have health insurance, or there's like there was that whole thing put into place. But now the federal government was the one that mandated that no matter what, whether it's race, creed, sexuality, whether you are a legal resident or not a legal resident, you have to be provided care, which is why you now have Medicare picking up the partial base tab, because the federal government said that this was the case.
Jump in, Dave. I'm all about, listen, I agree with all of that. It makes sense, but I agree the government, or my position is the government shouldn't have to be the one mandating that. And as far as the billing piece that you mentioned, I think we definitely need to revisit that on the next point, because I'm going to just put it out there. I'll float it now when we come to it later. Obamacare broke the billing system. Okay, next.
Let's hear it, David.
I don't disagree. Yeah. I'm just
Well,
no,
what was that?
sorry, I was getting a lot of static, so I didn't really hear like most of the argument. So
On my part or on
Yes.
his part? Oh,
on your
is it my mic that's being a little weird for you, or
no,
how's it
it's
going?
just intermittently both of you guys will start sounding like robots in my headphones for some reason. I don't know why, and I just can't understand it.
Those gremlins
Good.
are in here.
I swear, man. I don't know what's going on.
Well, we can dive into that next little section, since we all kind of agreed a little bit, that you should have the right to life-saving healthcare, but that things should be a little bit different when it comes to the everyday workings of the healthcare system. And that next point I had kind of brought up was the pricing mechanisms, and that was a big part of everybody's everyday complaints about how the medical system works. And I know we've talked a little bit about it in the background. Both of us, all not together, but at separate times, have talked about, the kind of healthcare system and the way that it's paid on out. And I had a big question to kind of ask on it, and it's how do we get from where we are here, where you go receive healthcare and you don't know the price of the healthcare that you're going to receive, so that there's discrepancies across the United States, where you can go to a hospital and you have to stay there, and in one state it costs $10,000, and in another state it's going to cost $100,000, and no one can tell you what it's going to cost you up front. I know how would you think that we get to the other side of that? And how would you say that it's legislated at like federal levels, at state levels, or do we kind of vote with our dollars to kind of change that system? We'll go with
So
David.
yeah, I say you open up competition across state lines. That would definitely help. Um, the but then that goes to like a whole. Well, not really. I was gonna say that goes to like a whole states' rights thing, but man, healthcare is so complicated. It's really tricky.
They've made it
Because
that
part
way.
of me thinks that. Okay, so I kind of would rather have an open conversation, to be quite honest, because this is kind of there's a lot of minutia in all of this, and because I want so bad to just go ahead and just like point to all the other country, literally every single other developed nation on earth provides universal health care and have better health outcomes than the United States and spend less and have, because they get rid of the administration cost, they get rid of the advertisement cost, they get rid of the middlemen, they just provide health care. So I really don't understand why we don't have that type of system. Like, I understand why we want the freedom and choice and how that can really help us uh, maybe drive down prices even more if we have more competition and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I'm very much a humanist. I'm very pro-human, very pro-human life, and I just want people to be happy and healthy. And also, these other countries have better outcomes predominantly because they can see the healthcare, or they can go to the doctor whenever they need to, and that helps them get more preventative care. And that's one of the biggest factors. Here in the United States, anybody can eat whatever they want. They can exercise if they want to or not. It doesn't really matter, especially if they're not seeing a doctor. They don't have someone always telling them, hey, you need to do this, you need to watch this, you need to stop eating that, whatever it is. They just do live their lives however they want. And that's part of maybe the issue, is that, and for a lot of Americans, is that we're like, well, what, this guy's over here, he smokes, he drinks, he's obese and all this stuff. And that's why we don't want to do a universal healthcare system, because why should I have to pay for that guy? And I say personally, I was being a little facetious at the beginning. Personally, I'm a way more of a this is probably the one thing where I'm more of a collectivist on, because I think we're all in this together. We all deserve life, and we don't have. It is insane to me that people go into debt and file bankruptcy over medical bills. That is absolutely insane to me. My family has struggled tremendously with medical bills because cancer just runs in the family. So it's just like, what are we supposed to do about that? Even the healthiest people. My mom was a nutritionist. Now, she didn't do everything by the T, of course, being a smoker and a drinker. But at the same time, like, she was super fit and ate right and did all that stuff, worked out all the time outside of the smoking and the drinking. She was fine, but she got cancer. My grandfather, though, her dad was, I don't know if it was just old age, probably, but he didn't drink, didn't smoke, was healthy, and he got colon cancer. So, and then my grandmother, my mom's mom, had a brain tumor. That's what ultimately ended up killing her. My grandfather on my dad's side got bone cancer. That's what ultimately ended up killing him. And my grandmother now has dementia. So, and I don't think that your family should also have to fork that bill because you got sick. And it's just, I don't know. To me, it's more, it's healthcare, and it's the most thing that's like really, truly just based on like ethics, morals. Like, what do we want as a society? Like, you don't want to. You're not forcing people to give care. First of all, like to Keith's point, a doctor shouldn't be forced to give care. They shouldn't even think of it that way.
Right.
That's not the way they should even think about it, because they're doctors. That's what they do. They don't care if you just pulled up in the room and they want to save, like if they just want to save your life. There's no reason to check to see if you're a legal person or not. Like, it's just, no, we just need to save this person's life because it's just the right thing to do. And I can't see any instance where that's just not the case. I don't know. That might just be me. I went on a little tangent there, but
No,
I
that
mean,
was a
I
good
think
tangent, but you brought a lot of nuance in there. You
we
really did.
we can definitely
Sorry.
have more of like the open discussion style, and instead of like hitting on every single point at the point, we can just open it up more, because I'm sure we'll hit on a lot of the points that we wanted to talk just by having the conversation. So
yeah,
I know
I just want to
I
have a
think
conversation, man.
I think what you had brought up more so reflects on non-necessary procedures, is where you're going to have that big barrier to, like, oh, well, it's universal health care. We're going to put it under the healthcare bucket, but this person didn't need triple biddies, They just decided that they wanted to have that procedure. But it's considered healthcare because they also provide a legitimate service to someone that's, a fire victim. You got to get a skin graft. It's the same kind of medical care. How do you forego that from the healthcare system? And that's, I think, the biggest argument of it all. Whereas if you have universal healthcare, does this fall under healthcare or not?
Well, just look to Medicaid and Medicare. Elected surgeries aren't accepted. You're not allowed to do elective surgeries. Now, if you're going to go point into the 0.00001% of gender affirming care, I mean, fine, I agree with you there. We probably shouldn't, afford people that. But outside of that, all elective surgeries, you have to pay yourself. It's not covered by the state or anything. So, and I don't think it is in other countries either, to my knowledge. But yeah, that's just, I don't know. Go ahead.
Well, I don't know. I'm still kind of stuck back on that whole morality point. In the fact that, again, I stick with, you should have the right to be able to go and access whatever healthcare you need. The doctor shouldn't have to be mandated to say, hey, I'm going to save your life today. No, you idiot. Of course you're going to do it because that's what you're supposed to do. But when you involve the government with this regulation to you got to accept this person, you got to accept that, whatever, however you want to break it down, that's where the whole system breaks down. That's where, and that's why we have all this. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm having a brain cramp on my words right now. But the bottom line is the government mandates that are coming down from the federal government with regard to Obamacare is where it all screwed up to me. Because I'm with you. Listen, I've been dealing with plenty of medical issues for decades now with regard to my wife. That has caused like consistent visits to the doctor without getting into all kinds of details. Okay. Pre-Obamacare, it was so much easier to navigate the system. It was, don't get me wrong, it wasn't like it was perfect. Okay. But it was easier to navigate the system between doctors for various things. After Obamacare, that became a nightmare and to remain such to this day. You have to go and see this doctor for this. You have to see that doctor for that. This doctor can prescribe this prescription. This doctor can't. There's this, that, whatever. And then you talk about billing all of that. You don't even know what you're going to pay. Let's start with that. And then you come to the fact that If you have X health insurance, you're paying this. If you don't have health insurance, you're paying this. Maybe you have crowd sharing health insurance, which I think is a great idea, by the way, and they negotiated this. No, that's not how it should be. Again, you talk about going on a tangent. I'm going down the tangent road there. So to back up on you, Dave, but I think that's taking it from the top down level is what has destroyed our healthcare system and will ultimately implode our healthcare system. Okay, I'm gonna get off my soapbox now.
You got.
Go ahead, David.
Yeah. Just my counter to that.
Okay.
I had to throw that in there at some point. My counter to that is that let's not conflate Obamacare with Scandinavian style universal health care. They are not the same thing at all.
Okay.
So, and the thing is that like, there's not one country on earth, developed nation, that has universal health care that hates it. There's just not. It has overwhelming views.
Well, I guess that depends if you're the one waiting in line and dying to get there. I'm just saying. Because there's just
Hold on,
because
hold on,
you
hold
get
on.
universal health care doesn't mean you actually get the health care.
I'm glad you brought that up, because here's my counter to that. You know what the waiting in line? You know what waiting in line is in America is? How big is your wallet?
It's like that in those countries too, because if you can afford it, guess what? You move to the top of the line. And so it doesn't matter what country you're in with, if that's the litmus test.
Well, you don't move to the top of the line because it's free. It goes in order of priority.
Yeah, but you're gonna wait. Okay, listen. If you got a procedure you need,
Now
and it's free, but you got to wait 7 months to get it, and you'll be dead by the time you get there. But you've got a wallet that says, "Hey, doc, here you go." You're moving to the top of that line.
Well, no,
nobody's dying waiting on procedures. That's the thing. It's
well,
not. That's not a thing.
Okay, yes, it is.
I mean, I'm sure there's some instances. I do know I have buddies in Canada that have been on a list to get a surgery. It's not a life necessary surgery, but it would improve their care of life. And they are on a list. And one of my other buddies' dads is a surgeon in Canada. And he said a big problem with the Canadian system is that it is extremely hard to incentivize people to come be a surgeon, to come be a nurse. There's a very limited pay scale on things because it is highly government regulated. You can't charge more than this, so that's what it's paid, and this is the most that you could pay anyone, so that's why there ends up being a giant list. We don't have new people trying to come in unless they absolutely have the love of that field. And that's why there's a long list. He's been waiting for 6 months for a knee surgery. It's not a life. It's not going to save his life, but it would improve his care of life. But if he had, $20,000, he could come down here to America and just pay to have it done now, which is what the richest do in those systems. Where it's like, well, I don't want to wait. I'm just going to go where I can get it. I'm going to go to Mexico and get health care. And that's a problem we see here, where people go to Mexico to get a procedure done that's going to cost them $15,000 here, but they could literally just pay $2,000 to a doctor in Mexico to get it done. So, I mean, there are some advantages of having that free open system, and that can't be denied. There needs to be like there needs to be a mix of it.
Yes.
My dad was literally on a list for priority for getting a liver transplant. So that happens here too.
That's more because there's the donation of kidneys, though.
No. It wasn't.
or
It was
liver.
there. He was prioritized because he was older, or he is older, and he was a drinker and all this stuff. And that's where I kind of get into like, all right, so the prioritization, that's the one thing that gets me with the universal healthcare. And I was saying it as I was getting it out, just a few minutes ago. And that's the whole.
Sorry if I interrupted that. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're fine. That's what gets the whole, like, the prioritization of care is kind of one of the issues. It's like, I don't know. Do we let the state decide that? And that's where I personally, that's why I've come around. See, I can argue devil's advocate. So I wanted to spice it up a little bit. Let's just be real.
LBC is the spice of life.
My main thing is provide life-saving care and let the free market do your primary care, your everyday, day-to-day care. I think that's probably the best way to go about it. And I think that like anything over a certain amount, maybe I'm just spitballing ideas, because that's what we're here for. We're here to try and find solutions, really, at the end of the day. Maybe put a cap on cares in a way that people don't go into debt.
No doubt.
Or for over that care, like, it's just, I don't know. It just makes me, but of course you do have organizations that do exist where people, donate to, and you can go and get help from them. But it used to be provided by the church. Didn't that used to be a thing?
Yeah,
I know there's churches around here that provide all different kinds of things, like dental care and stuff. And
Yep.
And that's awesome. And I think we should have more of that. And I actually think that something that we're all familiar with, I actually think DAOs could be part of the solution. A healthcare DAO. Imagine that.
Wow. This is a conversation BC and I have had a couple of times. Did you tell him about our conversations, BC?
No, me and LBC have had the same conversations.
Oh man,
DAOs, I think, are one of the solutions of government and funding in general. Like,
I agree,
just straight up. Because I've been thinking about it for a while now. I was like, man, what if we just had a pothole DAO? Let's get rid of these damn potholes.
Yep.
And that's why I do think it should be like a hybrid system where you kind of, at the state level, have it regulated, where the federal government comes in and says, you can't restrict the access of anyone to receive health care. And then the states determine how that should be applied. Where when it comes to life-saving care, you might have a state like, say, Washington, that decides that they want to have all absolutely life-saving care and all everyday care covered by the citizen, by the government, because of the taxes you pay in as the citizen. And that doesn't have to necessarily stop at their border. Whereas if you need life-saving care and you need to go to the Mayo Clinic, it is still covered. Or you might have a state more like mine, where it's like, well, we say that the everyday cost should be picked up by the consumer, and we should have the open market thrive, and you just can't tell someone no if they come to access that. But your most expensive costs, say life-saving care or extreme surgeries or things like that, are picked up, and you pay that in taxes. That's going to be something that's used a whole lot less. So you could afford to cover those costs a little bit more.
Just a quick question for you guys, for the panel. What do you guys think about, and I probably already know BC's answer to this, leave it up to the states. Hey, if California wants to do universal health care, as long as the funds don't come from the federal government, and they vote for it, shouldn't they have it?
I totally agree with that. And that was my whole point, where it's like if each state goes about it the way that they want to go about it, and they're just not restricting care, they're just deciding how much the bill should be picked up, you also get the federal government out of your everyday life in healthcare. And that would be a massive improvement upon what we have.
Absolutely. And that's the point I guess I was trying to get at earlier. So, I know I got off on a tangent there. It's interesting to think, I hadn't really, prior to you saying we're going to do this live stream, given much thought to it being done on a state level. But I guess much like a lot of things, it makes sense on a more grassroots kind of effort to these things. Now that you say that, all I know for sure, I'm not a smart man, but all I know for sure is that the federal government needs to get its nose the hell out of it because it's destroying it at this point, to be in my one man's humble opinion.
Well, I think one of the biggest issues with Obamacare is the subsidies. The subsidies is what's driving up the prices.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
It's just because they know that they can just write it off. Okay, now we gotta fork over all this money. It's like it. That's the one thing that I've always thought about when it comes to like a universal healthcare system is that, it's kind of like, it's more just, I don't want them to control it at all, but it would be nice if it was more of just like collective payment, just collective payment, not just you stay out of it, but just collectively, just we could help pay for it with each, help each other pay for our healthcare to keep us healthy. And I mean, it's kind of beneficial to everybody because you get healthier people, which means you get people that can work for longer. You get just better mentally, better mindsets because you don't have people drowning in debt. And it's just like a better all around kind of society. But it's just, I don't know. I told BC, when we were talking about this, in the text, it's healthcare is tricky, man. It's like it is super tricky because you're dealing with people's lives, and it's a very inelastic from a market perspective. It's a very inelastic type of deal, meaning, something could cost $100 to $5,000. And it could save your life. Well, what are you going to do? Like, it's like, well, or not $100. Forget that. It's going to cost you $50,000, but it's going to save your life. Well, yeah, I'm going to do that because I want to live. It's just kind of, I don't know. It's not fair to say, especially if you're like super healthy, and you don't do anything that you're not supposed to do. But, I mean, that's, I don't know. It's part of life, but I just wish that there was. I know whatever we're doing now sucks.
Facts.
I mean, our healthcare outcomes are crap. Our premiums are like doubling next year. For some people, they're triple and even quadrupling, which is absurd. And it's, man, I don't know, man. It's just. Whatever we're doing here in the States it's not the way. It's not the way.
Nope.
Have we ever, BC, you might know the answer to this. When was healthcare the most free market in the US?
When it was at the most local level, when you had your tight-knit communities and the doctor was just down the road and he would make a house call and he would come to your house and he knew you by name and you didn't necessarily pay a fucking arm and a leg. He was doing it because that was the service he provided. And if you could pay him like, here's this here and here's this there, and you're also helping him out at the same time, like that was when it was the most free. There was no limited access. It was the doctor was right there, and he'd come to your house if he had to. Like we are
Population plays a role, though, right?
in some ways, where it's like, but you could say that of, like, you brought it up earlier, where there was also preventative care then, whereas it wasn't, oh well, how do I bill this so that I can get paid and that insurance will pick it up, and if it's not there's not a billing code to this, I'm not gonna treat you. That's fucking bullshit. Sorry for the language, but that's bullshit. You should be trying to make people healthier, not trying to meet a billing code standards. And that's why the federal government needs to get out of it. Because you see it, like you brought it up earlier, with the Scandinavian countries. They have preventative health care. People are able to go afford, I've got one in my room, but like, people are able to afford to go to the sauna regularly. And we know that this will prevent you from having heart attacks by 70%. It'll lower your cholesterol. Like, all of these things that we could just absolutely do, but there's no way to bill it so it doesn't happen in America. That's bullcrap. And that's a big part of the problem.
And you know what would help with that? Opening up just your primary care to free markets and letting me be able to shop and see how much everything freaking costs, how much these doctors.
Heaven forbid.
Yeah, right.
Heaven
Like,
forbid.
imagine being able to just walk into a clinic and, they got a board there. It's like, this is what this is going to cost, and then you could go to another one and you could actually shop. Now, I understand if you're incapacitated, which is why I think, like, yeah, we should, like, fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Do it.
But because you can't shop, like, like, but as far as like your day-to-day, doctor visits, like, what are we doing here? Why am I have literally paid a $200 copay before, which is outrageous.
Absolutely.
Just to see a doctor. Like,
and let me guess, they didn't actually provide you a service other than seeing you and being like, yep, you're all good, bro.
Pretty much. Or no, actually, this is when they decided to tell me I needed to be on an antidepressant.
Oh.
And I was on it for 2 weeks and started having suicidal thoughts. And I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore. Sorry. I have anxiety. I'll figure it out.
Right. No, they don't want that. See, you cannot see what I was going to say almost spins right off of that. The incentives for these doctors to prescribe this stuff. So big pharma needs to get their ass out of the healthcare system as far as, lobbying Congress, as far as lobbying these doctors, sending here, try this prescription, here, try that prescription, here, you'll get a rebate or whatever they call those, check basically for like prescribing this, that. Get them the hell out of there, because that's part of the problem.
It's just like that. I hate the advertisements too.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and that goes along with the federal government being involved in your healthcare.
Yes.
Like, why are you allowed to, as a pharmaceutical company, go to my politician that represents my district in the Senate and be like, well, if you do this, we'll give you a bunch of funding for this, but it'll also allow us to jack up costs here that you're going to be paying anyway. So we're basically just giving you the money that your constituents are paying into taxes. That's so corrupt.
Hey, it's not a coincidence that we saw the opioid epidemic boom when we were invading Afghanistan. Where there's a lot of what? A lot of poppy?
Well, no, that's a coincidence, sir. Why ever would they do that? Why would they get their hands on a ton of opium and then try to push opium to the public through legislation? That doesn't make sense.
Those tinfoil hats, boy, I'll tell you what.
But I mean, it's not so much tinfoil.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Hold on. You're right. It's not causation. Okay, correlation isn't causation.
Yeah, that's right.
But I mean, I've definitely heard from people that were he was a Marine over there, and he said that they were posted up right by some poppy fields, and they were kind of basically guarding poppy fields. And you know who got all of that? All of the poppy that was off of those fields, and it's not even a secret. It was the pharmaceutical. Yeah, it was the big pharma, and they made brand new opiate medications that they lied about and said were not addictive, and there was just, you would have, outbreaks of pain, so that meant we had to give you bigger doses, and like that was so corrupt, and they've never paid for it, and we've just been like, yep, that's the way the healthcare system works. Cool.
Yep. It's very depressing. I want to say one other thing, because I wait, this way. There we go. Dave, you and I were saying, I think, the same thing. We just said it differently, because you were talking and to the DAO point about like using like crowdsourcing. There are already these I don't know if crowdsourcing is the right word, but where, the communities that you can get into, and they negotiate a set bill, you know what you're going to pay, and you just pay your premiums to be part of those resources. And I think, no, I hope that those are the precursors to potentially having something like a more structured DAO jumping into, the healthcare system, because I'm with you guys about that. I really am. So I think we're eye to eye on that. We were just kind of saying it different.
I just think we need some crypto people that understand, the technology, to actually be stepping up and being like, hey, look, I'm going to run for like local positions and actually be pushing for some of these changes to happen at the most local levels. It's like, hey, this is something we absolutely all complain about. Let's have a healthcare DAO. What's a DAO? Well, let me get in and explain it to you. And we'll actually see the adoption of this technology that all three of us absolutely love. And it could actually fix big problems that everyone complains about. We're also going to have to completely pry back some power from the federal government to do so. But like, the whole intention of the United States was to have United States on, like, we're united on the big core principles, but when we get to the minutia of how this is done, you as the state Florida, and you as the state California, and you as the state Maine, and you as the state South Dakota get to decide the intricacies of how that is done, and as long as it falls within the federal government's guidelines of how it was supposed to be done, it's A-okay. And they keep their hands off.
What do you gentlemen think about public option? Same deal.
Can you kind of explain what you mean by?
I was going to say, I'm not familiar with that.
So the public option is basically you can just opt in to a Medicare for all type system. You can opt into putting your tax dollars towards that, and then they would just collectivize that money, and they would basically, everybody would, those that opt in get the care, that specific care. So it's just kind of like you get a choice to be part of a Medicare system type of deal. It's not just forced upon you, but you do get the option. It's that's why I think a lot of the countries that have universal healthcare, some of them, I think it's more it's not really universal healthcare because it's an option. So I think Germany is one of the countries that does a public option. So, and it's kind of just, it lets the market forces be there at the same time as, the people that want to do like the more collectivist stuff. It's probably more for like low income people, to be honest. I haven't really looked too much into it myself. I just know that it's an option to opt in or not. Like You don't have to if you don't want to. You can go and pay for that private care if you want. It's almost what we have now, but if you're past a certain income, you have to get private care here, right? It's not an option. Whereas over there, it doesn't matter your income. You get the option to opt into like a Medicare or not. But here we have to pay for it. Even if you do make enough money to pay for your own private, like you still have to pay for Medicare. So, yeah, I don't know.
I would be a
What do
big
you guys
fan of
think?
that as long as
Yeah.
it's more like as long as it's at like a state level, and it doesn't, it's not restricted to just specifically in the state. Because, there's Mayo clinics and things like that provide absolutely life-saving care, and that might not be in your state. So I'd be okay with it. Me as a younger person right now with not a lot of health issues, I'd probably opt out. And opt in when I'm getting a little bit later in life, before I'm starting to, I'm going to have to see the doctor every other year. Well, that's why it's nice to kind of have, me and David are like same generation, but like a little different time frames in the generation. So we have like a little different framing of how to look at life. Because like I went $15,000 in debt because I got stabbed by like a legitimate crazy person, and I had to pay that bill, or otherwise I'd be absolutely screwed. I had no health insurance. I was 19 years old, and like this was when Obamacare first came out, and like I footed the bill. It screwed me for a while.
Did your parents not have insurance?
They did. I was not in the home at that point. So I mean, they had the
you're still-
option.
Under Obamacare, you got covered until you turned 26 under your parents' insurance.
I did not have my parents' insurance information.
That sucks. That
But
sucks. No one
there-
should go into debt if they got freaking stabbed, bro. Like, what the fuck?
I know.
Yeah, and like that's why I do think that like there needs to be a big change in the healthcare system, because it's like it obviously doesn't work, and everyone everywhere complains about it, and like Democrats agree you shouldn't have to go into $15,000 worth of debt to have your life saved, and Republicans agree you shouldn't have to go into $15,000 of debt to have your life saved. So like, what are we arguing about? Like the minutia of it? Because the federal government is involved.
Literally.
The one thing that I actually liked about Obamacare was pre-existing conditions, because if you can't control it, you can't control it. So that's the one thing. That's the one part of it where I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, we shouldn't be denying access to people with pre-existing conditions. Because who's to say what really caused something? I mean, there's some things that you can say, all right, you cut your arm off, like you were being an idiot. But if you just sprout up some rare disease, like, or if you were born with something like pre-existing, right? That's really the thing, is that I don't know if you should be denied access. It's kind of tough. No, we've all agreed that access is a right. It's the paying for it, I guess, that's not really a right, and that and the federal government should only be there to say, yeah, you have access. Isn't that the same as saying that you have to help these people? What's the difference?
It depends on how it's legislated, honestly. Because if you leave it very open on how it's to be legislated by the state, then that's where the difference comes in. Whereas in like the federal government has an insurance plan that is to pay for people that are below a certain income or are in a later stage of life, and we're all paying into that. And they set aside subsidies for this, and they set aside subsidies for that, and that's what makes it 10 times more complex, instead of it just being like, well, my state values being able to lowering heart attacks, and because we value that, we're now going to set up an incentive program. Whereas if you come in and you're supposed to have like certain cholesterol levels, and by the next time you come in, you meet these certain cholesterol levels, and you're paying into the collectivized system, you pick up no part of the tab. But if you didn't meet these goals that were set upon you to incentivize preventative care, then you're paying like a small copay. And that's not preventing you from getting access, but it is kind of incentivizing more preventative care and healthier people. But at the end of the day, if you needed life-saving care, it's completely covered. That's not restricting access, and it's also letting the free market flourish.
I don't know about healthcare quotas, man.
It is a very sticky line. But it's like, is it having some kind of quota that you need to meet, where it's like, hey, as long as you're like actually doing things to prevent you needing this billing, that's the system that we currently have. Whereas if we can't bill it, we can't treat it. Where it's like, instead, if you have high cholesterol, we're like, oh, well, here's this medication because everyone gets paid. Instead of being like, hey, well, look, if you lower your red meat intake and you do this and you do that, you won't even need this medication. But that's not how healthcare is done here.
True.
So how else would you incentivize that? As opposed to being like, well, big pharma's got to get paid, so here's this cholesterol medication that might also make you have diarrhea that we'll give you a medication for.
I'm laughing because I love those commercials when they have them on TV. Here's all the side effects, including death, by the way. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I know that's not a funny thing, but I'm just, the way you said that just hit me funny. Sorry.
Well, gentlemen. Yeah, go ahead.
No. Please go right ahead.
No, I was just gonna say we've hit the hour mark, so yeah, I don't know. I think that's as much time as I said I was allotted, and it's actually been 2 hours because someone
those luscious
decided
locks.
to get a haircut.
Hey, I gotta look fly,
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think we should. I mean, it's up to you guys. Do you think we should do our some closing remarks, or did we solve healthcare?
I'm okay with that.
I think it's
we're
a
all
topic
pretty much in agreement on a hybrid system, and to get the federal government pretty much out of it.
Yeah, my food for thought with regard to that would be this, and here's my final thoughts. How do we, the American people, get the federal government out of healthcare from where we are now? Because right now, it's like a weed that's completely strangling the healthcare system. And if you want to move it, to more local, whatever, but what's the means? How do we do that? Because as I sit here trying to, think through that, I don't see an easy way. Hell, I don't even see a way, if I'm being completely honest. Revolution, baby. No, I don't know. That's my wrap up. That's my takeaway. And there you go. Food for thought, maybe for a future stream. I don't know.
Yeah, I do think
hire more libertarians or elect more libertarians.
I do think it is a topic that we will have to come back on and get a little more in depth on some of the more intricacies and nuances with a little bit of education, because I barely started diving into the healthcare system for all of this. I just knew that something was wrong. There's countries that have slightly better options. They're not perfect, and that's kind of what led me on the framework of maybe a hybrid, but definitely without the federal government involved with it, because the federal government being involved with anything rarely makes anything better.
Right. We've seen that in so many areas.
Especially in the United States.
Yes. Facts.
We're not homogenous, so I just don't know that it could never work here. Like, you know, we're a little bit we're way too diverse. Everybody lives way different lives, and it's just like that's why it's got to be heavy on the free market and just kind of more just, you know, if it's life-saving care, it's life-saving care. Well, we should take care of that. But just from a payment standpoint, you know, I've pretty much always been on board with a hybrid type of system. But I definitely for sure want to see your primary care just go to freaking free markets. I want itemized receipts, and I want a menu, for lack of a better word. Like,
yeah,
I want to be able to shop. You know, I don't want to shop for healthcare insurance. I want to shop for doctors and care.
There you go.
Not the insurance.
There you go.
So that's my last thoughts on it. Thank you, gentlemen. This was awesome.
Yeah, it was great. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad that both of you could make it. Hopefully,
I'm glad you could too, BC.
Sorry for being late. You know, I did not expect him to go so long. We ended up actually talking a little bit about all of this, and he's a little bit of a hardcore Catholic. So he has a whole lot different framing of how the government should go than I do. And I think that made the haircut just a little bit longer than it should have been. But
there you go. The truth comes out.
I'm not a talker or anything. That doesn't happen.
No.
But I hope both of you can come on for some future episodes, and I hope that we can, you know, revisit this discussion at a later point, because I think we got through a decent amount. I think how I would like to leave it is that as citizens of your states, we should be advocating for our states to be more in control of our healthcare systems than the federal government is. If you want to see a lot less taxes done at the federal level, the way to do that is to have your states picking up these rights and taking them back from the government. Also, a big thing that needs to happen is insurance companies need to get out of here. You shouldn't be allowed to advertise for these medicines that also might make your problem worse on television with smiling people all arm in arm together as some happy, tight-knit community. And you should actually be coming together with your community to make these decisions that we're all struggling with. Because, like it was said, no one should go into debt for life-saving care. Well, that was an episode of Counter This. I will get some music together for intros and outros on the next one. I know I was working through some of that, and if I'd had a little more time before the show, I would have had that outro music all queued. But do you guys have anything you wanted to leave the people with? Something you got going on for this next week?
I'm heading to a conference as soon as we're done here, so that's it. There's my next few days with the travel and everything. But again, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Not a problem. Have safe travels. ULBC, you got anything that people need to know?
Vote for me for president.
Hey, you got my vote. So,
I'm announcing my run now.
Well, I'm sure you could get some crypto people to back that run.
Yep, crypto.
No, I'm starting off locally. I'm doing locals. I am heavily considering going to a local town hall meeting type deal this coming Wednesday. because they just tripled our sewage bill to pay for developers for some stuff that's been in the works for 15 to 20 years. And so, yeah, I want to go and complain about that.
Can you live stream it?
I don't know, but
Please?
I think I might just go just to sit in, just to kind of get a feel for it first, and then yeah, that's gonna be. I want to push this like every freaking episode. Get more involved in your local governments.
Facts.
They have more impact on your day-to-day life than the federal government probably ever will, outside of them bombing some country or something like, and getting more and more involved. But seriously, like your local taxes, your local building, your local schools, all that stuff is just much bigger part of your life. The potholes, the freaking potholes. Go to your local government, get more involved if you can. I think it would go a long way. And I think that would help build the more grassroots movement that we need in this country to help us take our local rights back from the federal government. So, but you got to get more aware locally and stop paying attention to the national politics, because ultimately the fact that you are paying so much attention to them is kind of what kind of feeds into the power that they are receiving. So you're kind of giving them too much weight, because at the end of the day, they shouldn't have that much power. And when you treat them like they have it, then it's easier for them to get it. So take it from them. Yeah. As far as anything else goes, hey, you know me, I'll be streaming tomorrow night on Lunar Beaches Crypto. So
Nice.
And going over yesterday's liquidation. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you guys. And yeah, I will see you in the next one.
Well, thank you for both of you guys coming on today, having this discussion. Both of their links to their YouTube channels are in the description. Go ahead and give them a follow if you aren't following them. And I look forward to having more discussions like this. If there are any topics that you would like to see that you really think need to be discussed, go ahead and leave a comment. Let us know, or let me know, what kind of conversations you would like to see, what kind of problems that you would like to see tackled. A lot of those are going to have some similar answers, where maybe if the federal government got out, we would have a little more better system. But there's a lot of intricacies to get into. So let me know.
We need lefties to be part of this conversation. Okay. Thank you.
Yes. If you actually know any more left-leaning people that would like to have a conversation like this, put it out to them, because I need different points of views to really come on here and have the discussion, to give a little bit of pushback to what is brought up, and also some more right-leaning people as well, because I sit smack dab in the middle, and I'm very, very libertarian, at basically as libertarian as it gets. So I need more alternative viewpoints to come on here. So that would be greatly appreciated. But until the next time, I will see y'all in the chats, and I look forward to another episode of Counter This.
Take care, everybody.